Everything else, I seek out a coach. I seek out an expert. I invest in that, or we invest in that.
I think we pay very well, but if that's your thing and you're going to leave and that's what you're looking for is you want to be the top paying person, there's always another firm that can do better.
I wanted to ask you guys, do you guys have mentors? Do you have coaches? Are there programs that you've been involved in that have helped you kind of get to where you are right now? Dan, go ahead and answer that first.
Yeah, well, in addition to, on the personal level, I have a trainer that I correspond with, and same thing you said with the app and all of that. On the business side, absolutely. And I want to give a shout out to a guy named Chris Small. He's an attorney in the area here. When I first went out on my own back in 2010, this guy took me under his wing. He was essentially a competitor at the time. He was doing criminal defense. No reason for him to share any of his insight with me, but he did. He's created a mastermind group of his own. He was probably the first person that I reached out to when I was really having a tough time with growth, and gave me some insight on that helped me at the outset. And from there, I take advantage of great content and great insight from a number of different sources. There's a lot of BS out there, but there's also a lot of good stuff. You guys have given me a lot of great content. Ali Awad, Michael Mogill with Chris. These are all people that I have interacted with, whether it be online content or attending some of their live seminars. We're currently in the process of working with a consultant to fill a brand new position, which is Chief Operations Officer for our firm. We've gotten to a point where our growth is not surging the way that it had been up till about a year ago, and we know that we need to completely revamp our business model. And that's a big commitment to find somebody on a national level to come in and kind of be our John Hauser, but that's what we're looking for. And so working with this consultant in order to help us do that, because I've become very comfortable with this notion of only the stuff that I'm really good at is the stuff I can do, or that I should do. Everything else, I seek out a coach. I seek out an expert. I invest in that, or we invest in that. Right now, that's kind of our biggest move going into 2023 is the consultant that's helping us not only revamp our compensation model and our business model here, but also help us draft that role and find the right candidate for that.
Got it. What about you, Jay?
Perhaps people don't often think about is your mentors don't need to look like you. They don't necessarily need to be in the same age. I have a couple that I think of that are in the exact opposite sectors. And I'll also mention that, as I alluded to, I picked up something from Target. One thing that I love doing, and this isn't a pure mentorship thing, is I just love seeing what restaurants do that work well. And I think that that's something where a lot of law firms fall short, is they look at other law firms and they say, well, I want to see what that law firm has done. When I look at it, I'm not particularly proud of where the legal profession has always been. So I flat out tell our people that if you want compensation, I think we pay very well, but if that's your thing and you're going to leave and that's what you're looking for is you want to be the top paying person, there's always another firm that can do better.
What kind of planning do you guys do? Do you guys follow a system? Do you guys or are you just winging it this whole time? Jay, why don't you go ahead and answer that first? I want to hear kind of how you guys plan, your quarter, your year, what are you guys doing?
My business partner, Matthew Heaney, and I right now, we're reading through a book called Traction together. Okay. It really is a structured, hey, here's how you set goals. He and I have spent the last month on that. And the next month we're bringing in our leadership team. And then the plan is to get together the start of the year, which is what we did this past year, and we have a team breakfast, and you set some expectations. I guess I would say we definitely don't wing it. At the same time, I mean, we're a plaintiff's firm, so inherently everything is very cyclical. As we've grown, we've gotten to be more consistent. I grew up in a family business. I pay attention to other businesses. So I do think that, unlike other people that maybe have practices, I mean, we're very much a business, and so we of course do that, but I don't want to lie to you. I mean, something that is really tough with what we do is you settle a case, you're set for trial, then all of a sudden they settle, and then it's supposed to pay out here and it's supposed to pay out there. So that's one of the things that continue to grow and focus on volume has helped provide some balance to that. But we are very intentional as well. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, we base everything on quarters and the year. So we have a all-day team retreat, usually the last the first Friday of the new year. We focus in December on just having fun. We have an annual party, and then through the holidays, we enjoy it. And then we get back to business the first Friday of the new year when everybody comes back. And then we have myself and my two partners who are owners, the three equity partners. We meet at the end of every quarter. We have that pre-scheduled. I'm the easiest, I mean, because I don't have a caseload. Really at all, but my two partners do, one of whom is the managing partner. So he's really stretched thin. And one of the reasons why we're expanding out to the COO role is to allow him to use his time more wisely. But I make it a requirement that we get out of here for one day at the end of every quarter, look at how we did on the quarter, set our goals. We kind of do a loose version of traction, but again, we're designing a completely new a model based on traction with a consulting firm that we're working with. But we get together at the end of every quarter, and then we meet with our other salary partners. We have a all partner retreat, and we're doing that on Friday. Each is intended to look at the last quarter. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? What changes are we making? And then what are our goals for the next quarter and beyond?
If you guys could go back and start over, what would you do differently, or would you do anything differently to get back to where you are faster?
I would have branded myself as Puget Law Group at the beginning. I spent about 4 years with my name, which is what most attorneys do. I have a terrible name. I've said this many times. It's hard to pronounce. You didn't even pronounce it correctly.
How do you pronounce it?
It's Garrel.
Garrel? Oh, I've been saying Dan. I apologize. Garrel.
No, I mean, and by the way, it was the childhood trauma that I suffered growing up.
Yeah.
Where every time I'd go to school in grade school and a substitute teacher was there, I would panic, and I'd try to get to them. I'm here, just mark me up, because the worst thing in the world was to have them mispronounce my name. And I say Garrel, and every other kid in the class is going, no, it's girl. Terrible name. And I was never one of these people that was married to having my name. But I waited 4 years. I should have started at the beginning, because that was actually very important, I think, to the growth surge. I can actually kind of track it to right around that time. And I also would have gotten in touch with a professional accountant much earlier than I did. Anybody who is planning on growth, regardless of if you're starting out small, unless you have another degree in accounting, please, pay somebody to do that stuff for you.
That's great advice. What about you, Jay?
The first thing that popped in my head was to find the right accountant. I wasn't going to say it, but Dan made me feel more comfortable about admitting that. We've always worked with professionals, but again, I'm in a plaintiff's practice, and so it doesn't click with everybody. It just doesn't work like a typical business. So that's probably an area where I should have been more thorough about finding a comparable plaintiff's firm and not looking the opposite direction. I guess a more interesting answer is, one of the things I think has served us well is that we've focused on niche areas. I have a very, very niche practice. If I represent almost exclusively pizza delivery drivers.
That's really interesting. Almost exclusively pizza delivery drivers.
I mean, our firm does different stuff, but I guess the point is that I think we were able to grow so fast because we honed in on a niche. And at some point you start to think, oh, well, I need to diversify. At our breakfast a few years ago, I even said, we're going to diversify. And so that was a 2-year project. And now I'm like, no, we need to focus on our niche areas and just do more of that.
Are you ever concerned about bringing other lawyers in and having them leave with the business that you built up? What do you guys think about that? Jay, what's your take on that?
Yes, because as I was alluding to, and that was part of my hard lesson, is as we started to diversify, we had a practice area that really neither my partner and I knew anything about, and it was just too easy for an attorney to leave, and that did happen. And so again, and we've made a commitment to, either we just do our areas that we know, or, we work out like an of counsel type partnership arrangement where you just bake into, hey, if this goes sideways, like we got to protect ourselves. I think a path to success is, don't just focus on your revenue, focus on your costs. I think that's something we've done. Something I do now is I act a lot like our general counsel. Like, now that we have all these people, I focus a lot on the downside and managing the risk. But I'll admit, like, I did learn it the hard way. So yes, I do worry about that.
What about you, Dan?
I'm thinking that question two different ways. The one is, if the question meant you have somebody on your team and they leave and they take cases with them,
Yeah.
or clients, or they take, kind of, I guess, the intellectual property that you've kind of developed. And I'm not concerned about that. I think I'm fortunate because I have a background in advertising. I was a graphic designer and art director before I became an attorney. And my goal is to always stay, several steps ahead of the competition. I'm not really worried about anybody coming in here, learning kind of how we do things and then leaving and taking that with them. That is my focus, is always create distance between myself and this firm and any competitors. The other version of that, leaving and taking cases. I mean, we went through something like that earlier this year. We had 4 partners. One of them left the firm, and he was definitely a top performer. I had a lot of clients that came, and he ended up taking a lot of cases with him. And again, criminal defense is not the same as other areas of the law. For the most part, we've got people that we take care of one time. The impact that had on us could never be any greater than it was with that person because of the role that they played here. They were one of the 4 partners, and we more than survived that. The good news about that is I don't ever have to worry about that, because no staff attorney is ever going to leave and have anywhere near that level of impact. And we survived that just fine. So that's one of the things I think we've done a good job of insulating ourselves against.
Question is, when will I know if I am ready to launch my own law practice?
I have told people before that I'm the one that jumped out of the plane, and then my business partner is the guy that came along, and he was my parachute. So, I mean, I think you need to be mindful of the timing. I did it pre-kid. I think it would have looked a lot different. And a lot of what's happened now is we've had people join our firm that we basically help them create their own business, but they maybe they're not really ready to fully take that risk. So I would say it doesn't necessarily have to be one or the other. Like, if for whatever reason you can't do that, don't beat yourself up. I mean, maybe you have an opportunity like what we do, where you can have a hybrid, like a partnership of counsel type relationship.
Gotcha. What's your thought on that, Dan?
I think you have to be an entrepreneur. If you don't recognize that in yourself, I'd have a tough time advising an attorney to go out on their own unless they have no choice but to do that. Just the way that the market is and how it's changing with privatization coming in. From my perspective, you've got to be far more dialed in on the business end and the entrepreneurial side of it than the legal side of it. Otherwise, the answer is as soon as you can.